afternoon, Saitlanders. How are you? We hope that you're very, very well. As you know, in some recent videos, I was sniffing and sniveling like a schoolboy, and it's very unbecoming. And sadly, I got over that. But now I'm cooking a curry, a Blesbok mince curry. And I'm from the south coast of Natal, upper south coast, Amanzimtoti, where curry tends to be hot. Not absurd, not the stupid thing that people somehow feel the need to make these days. It's just utterly unpleasant. And as the Pakistani and Indian cricket teams have remarked when visiting Durban, the curries prepared for them are just silly hot, but hot enough. And in the cooking process, I've managed to get cayenne pepper, peri, and masala, hot masala, and crushed chilies in my nose. I know, it's ridiculous. So all I can say is I'm sorry if there are a few snivels again. I'll press pause and try to take care of it that way. This is Saitlanders Week in Review for Friday, the 11th of November 2022. It's been a very, very humid day here in Van der Kloof, but now it started raining, and that's why I look a little bit bedraggled. I had to do something in the rain. But we bless God for the rain. We got 70 mils last week, and I suppose we've had about 10 mils late this afternoon, and it's gorgeous. And we need it. We always need it here. This week, we're only going to chat about two things, because the one is quite long and ingewikkeld, and people may want more details than, because it's I'm sure that many South Africans have got no idea of really how the midterm elections work, so we're going to focus on that a little bit and help people to understand. And then Kherson, Russia in Ukraine, the Kherson withdrawal, the shocking defeat, as the mainstream media would have it, the retreat with their tails between their legs. But we'll address that in a bit more of a sane and sober way than the News 24 and CNN, BBC, Sky News and others are able to do. Why? Because they're hidebound by dogma and doctrine. Therefore, they are literally unable to tell the truth, because the truth collides with their dogma and doctrine, and left-wing dogma and doctrine always supersedes reality. And that's why so much of science today is at odds with reality, because the science is supposed to correspond to dogma and doctrine, whereas reality, real, actual, natural science, empirically demonstrable science, is something else. And that's especially in the fields of, medicine now, and sociology and anthropology and psychology, particularly in the modern world. Anyway, let's get on with the midterm elections. What's the story? Well, to begin with, we know that all, bar none, of the people who conduct polls, all of the pollsters, said that there would be a red wave. Now, the Republican Party, otherwise known as the Grand Old Party, or GOP, I'm sure that you've seen that many times. The Republican Party uses the color red. Its color is red. And the Democratic Party's color is blue, like the color of my tie. And so there was going to be a red wave, meaning that the Republicans were going to just take the midterm elections. Now, let me explain how the midterm elections work, or what is the story behind them, very briefly, very simply. When the USA was first incorporated, federated, if you like. The original states were states in the way that we understand the word state. And in theory, they still are, but in practice, it's an absolute sham. A state is a sovereign entity that doesn't have a boss, whereas in practice, the United States of America are by no means sovereign. When they joined the United States of America, each individual state said, we'll become part of the federation, the federal. They didn't all join at the same time. And so the presidential and other cycles had already begun. In the USA, the presidential cycle is 4 years long. But the Senate, for instance, cycle is 6 years long. So they would say to, let's say, Alabama, oh dear me, Alabama, you should have joined up 2 years ago. You're a little bit late now. Oh, we can't really fit you in. The Congress is already ongoing. What about we do this? We wait 6.5 months and then you can join right in the middle of the cycle, the existing cycle. So some of those states' representatives have to be elected in between when the president and when all the other representatives are being elected, every 4 years. As we had 2016, Donald Trump was elected. Then 2020, Joe Biden was elected. And in 2004, they'll have their next elections. But some of these guys, going back from 150 years ago or whatever, always do their elections in between. Okay, so that's why they have midterm elections. And to complicate it even further, 6 doesn't go into 4. So the Senate races sometimes fall, or some of the Senate cycles fall on the presidential cycles, and sometimes they don't. Okay, so they were electing a whole bunch of governors, and that's just at state level. It's got nothing to do with anything, it only affects people in that state. So there's no governorship race as such, it's just a matter of prestige. Oh, the Republicans have got 40 governors and the poor old Democrats have only got 10. But it makes no difference to anything except if you live in that state that has a Democrat or a Republican governor and you don't like the laws that they're bringing in that state. Now, I should point something out to you. When we were in the USA, Andre Kutsia and I, we were in Oklahoma City and my luggage got lost. And we got to the luggage handlers before whoever. And they told us the truth. They were saying, look, we're looking at the cameras and the luggage, the monitors, right? Monitor. The CCTV cameras show the luggage moving along the line. And then the line goes on to the next screen. Boom, it disappears. So obviously some very senior authority had decided that they wanted to check out my luggage and they'd found a way to do it. And so my luggage disappeared and it was returned sometime later under very strange circumstances. Anyway, at the time, Andre and I had a dilemma about where we were going to go next and who was going to go there and who was going to go elsewhere and so on. So we phoned back to South Africa to ask somebody for advice, not Mr. Miller. And this person gave me a very patronizing lecture on my ignorance. Because my central dilemma, or the real rub of my dilemma was, if I go to this place, it's going to be a dangerous undertaking. The mood in the country to this, and they gave me a long lecture on how I need to learn how these things work. Meaning, Donald Trump is now in charge, therefore the whole country, the whole country is now very conservative, or the authorities are. But this poor person was oblivious to television and maybe radio, and therefore they'd never seen a program that demonstrates that in cities, you have the NYPD, the New York Police Department, not the South African or the USA, but the New York, the Police Department of New York. And you always see in those programs when there's a drama, the policeman's running to the mayor and say, well, we're trying our best, ma'am, black lady. Trying our best, catch the any moment now. Oh, you better do so. Because the mayor is in charge in that city, not Donald Trump. Likewise, the county, you have a county commissioner. The county commissioner has a sheriff. Regardless, Donald Trump can do whatever he likes. If there's a Democratic county commissioner and a Democratic sheriff duly elected by the populace, they're always going to have a Democratic or liberal bent. And so it goes to the state governor. Okay. So we'll talk not about the governor races, but about the Senate and House of Representatives races. The House of Representatives and the Senate together make up the Congress. It's just a word for the two houses of parliament. As we used to have a Senate at one time in South Africa and a parliament. And in the United Kingdom, they still have the House of Lords, the upper house, and the junior house, the House of Commons. Excuse me. So, the Republicans are doing very well in the various races that occurred this year, because they didn't all. Not all of them were due to fall this year in the House of Representatives. And it looks fairly certain that the Republicans will take that race. And in the Senate, it's very close, too close to call. But strangely, this is the very strange thing, there are many votes that have not yet been tallied. And people have been making a mockery of the system because Brazil, for instance, which has a similar number of voters to the USA, and is also a similarly very large country, is able to conduct from start to finish an entire national election for every role and position under the sun and tally it up within 3 days. The Americans of some of these districts, voting districts within the states, and states are saying, well, it might be 8 days, we're not that, don't count on us too much. This is the USA, we're not that advanced, even though they're using voting machines. Now, just for your interest, the House of Representatives is composed of 435 members. Therefore, the control rests in the party that gets 218 representatives elected to the House of Representatives or more. Once they've got 218, they've got more than half. And they can push through certain laws. Now, it looks as if the Republicans are going to take that. The deal is not yet done. The fat lady hasn't yet sung. But it is going to be well nigh impossible, even with the greatest amount of cheating, because I know that that is pertinent to some of you, for the Democrats to score, as it were, another 26 seats, and the Republicans just 7. Republicans are sitting on 217, and the Democrats on 192. And there are 32 seats uncounted. Now you might say, but 192 and 211, Simon, is not the same as 435 minus 403. In other words, the difference between 435 and 403 is 32. Yes, that's because not all of the seats are being contended. So there are 32 seats yet to be won. The Republicans need to win, of those 32, 7 to have control. The Democrats need to win 26. In other words, almost all of them all but 6. So it looks as if the Republicans are going to take the House of Representatives, the lower house, the junior house, the upper house, the Senate. Republicans are sitting on 48, the Democrats on 46. But I have just read an article in the Manchester Guardian, which is a far left-wing newspaper. It was the preferred newspaper of Karl Marx, that says that the Democrats have, it's not yet been released, but they've got the inside story apparently, and the Manchester Guardian, I have to say, is very good with its facts, figures, data, and statistics. That the Democrats have won another 2 seats. So it's neck and neck, 48 and 48. Let's see. And that's the long and the short of the midterm elections, ladies and gentlemen. That's 15 minutes of me describing to you the overview. On another occasion, we can talk about the cheating. We can talk about John Fetterman. We can talk about, what is her name? Katie. Oh, dear me, I can't think of her name. We can talk about the 4 key states of Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. We can get into the whole Florida story, but that is an overview which I hope you find helpful, and that is really the big story of this week. The only other story that's really worth taking your time this Friday afternoon before you kick off your shoes and put up your feet for the weekend, and may it be a blessed weekend, is the Russian withdrawal from Kherson. Now, I remind you that the mainstream media has been saying since shortly after the 24th of February of this year that Russia is struggling, that its logistics lines are frail, and that it is suffering high losses, that its equipment is inferior, that it's all rubbish. The Russians are, or have been up until recently, employing about 150,000 men against roughly 650,000 men of the Ukraine army. And the Russians have done so badly, supposedly, that they have not taken 4 provinces, I beg your pardon, they've not taken the 2 provinces that they set out to take, they've taken 4. How bad is that? They haven't used their T-14 Armatas, they haven't used T-90s, they haven't used, I have seen MiG-31s used once. Let's say they've been used 100 times. Let's say I've not been paying enough attention. Fact remains that they are using, by virtue of the evidence, far older planes than the MiG-31M, the super fast planes that are modified for heavy bombing purposes. And you can say the same about various short-range ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles, hypersonic cruise missiles, supersonic cruise missiles, subsonic cruise missiles. I mean, it's just tons of stuff that they haven't even used yet, and yet they've gone much further than they ever said that they would, with a much smaller force. So, why are they leaving Kherson? Because they've gone so far occupying these 4 provinces that they had crossed over the Dnieper River in the one province. And it was what is called, in English, there's the expression which you would have heard 1,000 times in your life if you're a native English speaker, a bridge too far. Too few forces stretched too far. Too much success. They got carried away with themselves. And those of you who are students of history and warfare and what have you will know that the history of mankind is replete with examples of armies being so successful that it ended up being to their detriment. And their enemies were able to cut them off because they were strung out too thinly. And that is roughly, more or less, what has happened here. So, General Surovikin, General Armageddon, has said, listen, let's pull back a bit. Let's pull back. Let's gather ourselves. Let's rest and recuperate a bit. We'll take Kherson next week. And of course the Western media is saying, what a victory for Ukraine, what a victory for... And of course this follows on the events in Kharkov. Kharkov, which is the same as Kharkiv. It's a very, very flat eye. therefore, sometimes in English we spell it with an I, Kharkiv, and sometimes Kharkov. But it's something in between, Kharkiv. Kharkiv. It's something in between the two. Same place. Why did the Russians withdraw from Kharkiv? Because they were occupying a huge area with less men than what was ideal. And when the Ukrainians came in with their far greater numbers, the prudent thing was to take a couple of steps back. Why not? Who cares? We're doing so well. And that's why they've been able to progress so far. They haven't struggled. They've gone fantastically well by obeying the rules of law, which I don't understand well. I'm not a Krijgsvechter. I wasn't some super duper guy in the army. I was in intelligence. And not only in intelligence, I was at Hotel Command, which was the nickname for Natal Command, which is just behind Pirates Life-Saving Club on Battery Beach in Johannesburg. Battery Beach in Durban. Meaning, it's a cushy number. It's not real army. And therefore, I don't pretend to be the big boffin, but I follow as well as I can so that I can give the best advice that I can. And there is no question that they have done brilliantly and are continuing to do brilliantly, which is not to say that I am a neophyte, an apostle, a supporter of the Russians. Those of you who know me well, and those of you who are better able to read between the lines of various videos that I've made and interviews that I've done over the past 9 months since the invasion on the 24th of February, if that's 9 months, will know that I am most certainly not of the opinion that Russia is purer than the driven snow and that Ukraine is the victim, is the bad guy. Ukraine is the bad guy. There are no two ways about it. None of their story makes any sense whatsoever. But that's not to say that because a domestic affair happens between a man and a woman, and you see it going on, that you're entitled to meddle. You have no idea over how many years and how painfully who tormented whom regarding money, children, betrayal. Keep your nose out of the domestic affairs between a man and a wife under every circumstance, bar none. And so too here. There's much more to the story than meets the eye. But the fact remains that Russia has done superbly well and continues to do so. And I think that's about it for the week, guys. Let's keep this video a little bit shorter. We'll speak again soon. I had hoped to do many videos today, but it ended up becoming a ridiculously busy day, and I'm trying to do a whole bunch of research that I wish I'd done in my teens and 20s, and I'm playing catch up over flipping decades. And then it's a call from this one, and then it's the bank, and then it's arrange this, and then it's chat to the other one. This one needs help. And it was just one of those days that became utterly wrecked. So hopefully on Sunday, I'll be able to do a batch more videos because they're great things to talk about, especially in these times in South Africa. Make no mistake. If you are not now a member of Sakelanders, if you are not watching Colonel Du Toit's talks in the morning and hearing what the vital stuff that he is sharing, and Mr. Miller's stuff, the prophetic stuff, you're probably making a mistake. South Africa is now standing on the precipice of the abyss. Anyway, we'll talk about that some more. May God bless and keep you over this weekend and in the dark times that lie ahead of us. May you and yours be among his chosen. God bless you and have a lovely weekend. Cheerio, everybody. Bye-bye.